Discovery and desperation. The wind howled across the Svalbard archipelago, carrying ice crystals that bit into any exposed skin like tiny daggers. Dr. Maya Chen pulled her thermal mask tighter, watching as her research team's ground-penetrating radar slowly revealed something impossible buried beneath centuries of ice. The reading showed a perfect geometric structure, far too regular to be natural, extending nearly a kilometer into the permafrost. Dr. Chen, Sarah Okonjo, her lead researcher, called out over the howling wind. The thermal readings are off the charts. Whatever's down there, it's generating heat. Maya trudged through the knee-deep snow to examine the thermal imaging display. The object was indeed radiating heat, though not enough to melt the surrounding ice. More intriguingly, the heat signature pulsed with a regular rhythm, like a sleeping giant's heartbeat. The discovery couldn't have come at a better, or worse, time. The global climate crisis had accelerated beyond their worst model's predictions. The Arctic ice was melting at triple the expected rate, methane releases from the permafrost had reached catastrophic levels, and the world's governments had moved from half-hearted mitigation efforts to desperate plans for mass relocation of coastal populations. Maya's research station, funded by the International Climate Restoration Initiative, ICRI, was one of the last scientific outposts still searching for solutions rather than just documenting the collapse. Most of her colleagues had already abandoned hope of reversing the damage. But Maya had always been stubborn. It's what had driven her to pursue her wild theories about ancient climate regulation technology that might have once existed on Earth. "We need to get down there," Maya announced, already reaching for her tablet to begin planning the excavation. "Sarah, contact the ICRI board. Tell them we found something that matches the energy signatures I've been tracking." Sarah hesitated. "They've already cut our funding once. If we're wrong about this, we're not wrong." Maya pulled up the three-dimensional radar image, rotating it to show the clearly artificial nature of the structure. "Look at these angles, these perfect curves. This isn't natural formation, and it's not human-made either. The metallurgical composition is unlike anything in our database." The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Maya called in every favor she had, requisitioned every piece of equipment she could get her hands on. The ICRI board reluctantly approved an emergency excavation budget, though Maya suspected it was more about humoring their most persistent researcher than any real belief in her theories. As the excavation teams worked around the clock, using heated drills to carefully melt through the ice, Maya pored over the increasing stream of data. The object was massive, easily the size of an aircraft carrier, but its design was like nothing ever seen on Earth. Its hull, if that's what it was, appeared to be made of a material that both absorbed and redirected energy in ways that defied physics as they understood it. On the 4th day, they finally broke through to an air pocket surrounding the structure. Maya insisted on being the first to descend. As she was lowered down the narrow shaft, her headlamp illuminated walls of ice that had probably been solid for thousands of years. The temperature dropped steadily as she descended, despite the heat signature they'd detected from above. Then her light fell upon something that made her breath catch in her throat. The surface of the object was visible now, a dark material that seemed to drink in her headlamp's beam, while simultaneously emitting a faint phosphorescent glow. But what truly caught her attention were the markings, precise geometric patterns that crawled across the surface like living circuits, occasionally pulsing with a deep blue light. "Sarah, are you seeing this?" Maya activated her camera feed, knowing the entire team would be watching from above. "It's responding to your presence," Sarah's voice crackled through her comm. The energy readings just spiked. Maya reached out, her gloved hand hovering just above the surface. The geometric patterns beneath seemed to flow toward her hand, like metal filings drawn to a magnet. With a deep breath, she pressed her palm against the hull. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The entire structure hummed to life, patterns of light racing across its surface like electrons through a superconductor. Maya stumbled backward as a section of the hull simply disappeared, revealing an entrance that hadn't been visible moments before. Maya. Sarah's voice was urgent now. Your suit sensors are going crazy. Whatever that thing is, it's generating some kind of field. It's okay, Maya interrupted, though she couldn't have explained why she felt so certain. It's not hostile. It's waiting. She stepped through the opening, her scientific training warring with a sense of wonder she hadn't felt since she was a child. The interior was organic, almost alive, with corridors that seemed to have grown rather than been constructed. The air, and there was air, her suit's sensors confirmed it was breathable, had a slight metallic taste, but was remarkably fresh for having been sealed away for who knew how long. As she ventured deeper, lights awakened ahead of her while fading behind, as if the structure was guiding her path. She came to a chamber that could only be a control room, though it bore little resemblance to human technology. At its center stood a pillar of what looked like liquid metal, suspended in midair, slowly rotating. Sarah, are you still receiving? Yes, but there's increasing interference. Maya, the ICRI board is demanding you pull out until we can get a full hazmat team down there. Tell them to wait. Maya approached the central pillar, drawn by an intuition she couldn't explain. The liquid metal responded to her proximity, rippling like mercury in zero gravity. Symbols appeared in the air around it, projection technology far beyond anything humans had achieved. And somehow, impossibly, she could understand them. Not the symbols themselves, but their meaning, as if the knowledge was being downloaded directly into her mind. This wasn't just a ship or a station. It was a seed, planted by a civilization that had mastered planetary engineering. They had left these seeds on countless worlds, dormant until they were needed, waiting for species advanced enough to understand their purpose, but humble enough to accept help. The ship had been waiting for a world on the brink of environmental collapse, waiting for someone desperate enough to try anything, brilliant enough to recognize its purpose, and determined enough to see it through, waiting for humanity to prove itself worthy of salvation. Maya reached out toward the liquid metal pillar, her hand steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to attempt. Sarah, get me a direct line to the ICRI board. Tell them. She smiled as the liquid metal reached back toward her hand. Tell them we're about to change everything. The awakening. The world changed in the 48 hours following Maya's discovery. Military vehicles surrounded the excavation site, their heavy treads scaring the pristine Arctic landscape. The ICRI board had barely finished reviewing her initial report when multiple governments claimed jurisdiction over the alien vessel. Now, 2 days later, Maya found herself arguing with Colonel Diana Reeves of the United Nations Special Operations Division. This isn't a weapon, Colonel. Maya gestured at the holographic display, showing the ship's internal systems, which pulsed with an ever-stronger energy signature. It's a planetary restoration system. If we treat it like a military asset, we risk losing our only chance to reverse the damage we've done to Earth. Colonel Reeves studied the display with sharp green eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Chen, anything capable of planetary scale changes is inherently a weapon. The Chinese already have a carrier group moving into the Norwegian Sea. The Russians are mobilizing from the east. We need to secure this technology before. A low rumble interrupted her, emanating from deep within the ship. The geometric patterns along its hull flared brilliantly, and every electronic device in the makeshift command center flickered. It's responding to the military presence, Maya said, trying to hide her growing excitement. The ship is aware. It won't allow itself to be used as a weapon. Sarah burst into the command center, her dark face flushed with excitement. Dr. Chen, the internal chamber, the liquid metal interface, it's forming new patterns. Maya rushed to follow her assistant, leaving Colonel Reeves barking orders into her radio. The ship's corridors seemed different now, more alive. The organic-looking walls pulsed with stronger light, and the air itself felt charged with potential. The central chamber had transformed. The liquid metal pillar now projected a three-dimensional image of Earth, but not the Earth they knew. This version showed the planet as it might have been thousands of years ago, with vast green spaces where deserts now dominated, and polar ice caps that extended far beyond their present boundaries. "It's showing us the way back," Maya breathed, reaching toward the display. The projection responded to her movement, zooming in to show details of atmospheric composition, ocean chemistry, and countless other environmental metrics. "This is a complete blueprint for planetary restoration." "And a warning," Sarah added, pointing to a second projection that had appeared. It showed their current Earth, with angry red zones highlighting areas of critical environmental damage. Time markers indicated they had less than 5 years before several critical tipping points would be reached, cascading into unstoppable planetary collapse. Maya's fingers flew over the alien interface, which had become increasingly responsive to her touch. The ship was learning, adapting its communications to human comprehension. But it was also becoming clear that understanding the technology wouldn't be enough. "The ship can't do this alone," she realized, reading through the stream of data. "It needs partners, a symbiotic relationship with the dominant species." She turned to Sarah. "That's why it waited to be found. It needs us to participate in the restoration actively." A harsh voice cut through their revelation. Then it should have waited for a more unified planet. Colonel Reeves stood in the doorway, her expression grim. "We're picking up multiple incoming aircraft. Chinese and Russian markings. They're demanding access to the site." The ship responded before Maya could reply. The liquid metal pillars stretched and divided, forming a complex network of tendrils that reached toward the chamber's walls. Where they touched, new displays bloomed to life, showing military movements from around the globe. The message was clear. The ship was monitoring everything. "We need to activate it now," Maya declared, her voice steady despite the fear clutching at her chest. "Once the restoration process begins, no one will risk interfering. The consequences would be catastrophic." "You don't have authorization," Reeves warned, but Maya could see the conflict in her eyes. The colonel had seen the same projections they had, understood the stakes. "The ship didn't come here for authorization," Maya replied, stepping closer to the liquid metal interface. "It came here to save us from ourselves. Sarah, initiate the deep scan protocols we developed. Colonel, you can either help us or try to stop us, but understand that this ship's primary directive is planetary restoration. It will defend that mission." As if in response to her words, the ship's energy signature surged. The geometric patterns along its hull began to pulse in a rapid, complex sequence. Outside, the military vehicle's electronics suddenly went dead, while the ship's own systems powered up to levels they hadn't yet witnessed. "Multiple bogies, 5 minutes out," a voice crackled over Reeves' radio, one of the few devices still functioning. The colonel holstered her sidearm and strode to Maya's side. "What do you need?" "Help me convince them all to stand down," Maya said, her hands hovering over the liquid metal interface. "The ship is going to begin atmospheric processing soon. Anyone who interferes risks triggering its defensive protocols. And if they don't stand down..." The ship answered for her. A new projection appeared, showing its defensive capabilities. Even Colonel Reeves took a step back at the display of technological power that could render modern military forces obsolete. "Then we find out if humanity is truly ready for salvation," Maya said softly, pressing her palms against the liquid metal. It flowed around her hands, cool and electric, forming a connection that went deeper than mere physical contact. Through it, she could feel the ship's ancient purpose, its patient determination, its hope that this species would prove worthy of its gift. The chamber filled with light as the ship fully awakened, ready to begin its work. Above them, the Arctic sky darkened with approaching aircraft, humanity's first test in a process that would either lift them from the brink of destruction or prove they weren't yet ready for the stars. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the ship's systems align with her intent. "Let's show them what's possible when we choose to heal rather than harm." The real awakening was about to begin. Trials and evolution. The first sign that something had fundamentally changed came 3 days after the ship's activation. Maya stood at the observation window of the hastily constructed research dome, watching in awe as curtains of green light danced across the Arctic sky. But these weren't the familiar aurora borealis. These lights pulsed with purpose, spreading a fine mist of engineered particles through the upper atmosphere. The particulate dispersal is at 12% coverage, Sarah reported, her eyes fixed on the stream of data flowing across her tablet. Atmospheric carbon levels have dropped 2 parts per million in the affected areas. It's actually working. Maya nodded, though working barely began to describe what was happening. The alien vessel had extended massive arrays through the ice, transforming itself into a processing hub for planetary restoration. Its technology operated on principles that made their most advanced environmental science look primitive in comparison. Dr. Chen. Colonel Reeves approached, her uniform now bearing the insignia of the newly formed Global Environmental Defense Force. The near conflict 3 days ago had led to an unprecedented agreement among world powers, faced with the reality that the ship would not allow itself to be claimed or controlled by any single nation. The Security Council is requesting another update. They're particularly interested in the biological changes we're detecting in the North Sea. Maya turned from the window, hiding her exhaustion. The ship's symbiotic interface was taking a toll on her, requiring hours of deep connection each day to guide its restoration protocols. Show me the latest samples. The laboratory section of the dome was crowded with researchers from 24 countries, all studying the ship's effects on the environment. Dr. James Carey, their lead marine biologist, pulled up a holographic display of microscopic organisms collected from the sea. "It's remarkable," he said, his Lebanese accent thick with excitement. "The ship isn't just cleaning the atmosphere, it's seeding the oceans with engineered phytoplankton. These organisms are unlike anything we've seen. They're absorbing heavy metals, processing microplastics, and reproducing at rates that should be impossible. And they're not disrupting the existing marine ecosystem." Maya asked, though she already knew the answer. The ship's systems were far too sophisticated to make such a basic mistake. "On the contrary," James replied, enlarging one section of the display. "They're strengthening it. We're seeing increased biodiversity in every region they spread to. It's like they're reminding the Earth's systems how to heal themselves." A commotion at the dome's entrance interrupted them. Maya turned to see Dr. Viktor Petrov, Russia's leading climatologist, rushing toward them with a tablet displaying atmospheric data. "You need to see this," he said without preamble. "The methane releases from Siberian permafrost. They're reversing. The ship's atmospheric processors aren't just preventing new releases, they're actively recapturing and converting the existing methane." Maya felt a surge of hope, tempered by the knowledge that they were still in the early stages. The ship had been clear about one thing: this process would require humanity's active participation. It wouldn't simply fix everything and leave. As if responding to her thoughts, the ship's energy signature pulsed, sending new data streaming through their systems. Maya's neural link, a gift of the symbiotic interface, translated the information automatically. "It's ready for the next phase," she announced, drawing everyone's attention. The atmospheric and oceanic seeding was just preparation. Now it needs us to help establish the ground-based processing nodes. "What kind of nodes?" Colonel Reeves asked, already anticipating the logistical challenges. Maya projected the ship's schematics into the air. "Living machines, essentially. Hybrid technology that combines the ship's alien systems with Earth's native biology. They'll need to be planted at specific points around the globe, creating a network that can support and accelerate the planet's natural healing processes. The same points where you theorized ancient climate regulation technology might have once existed," Sarah added quietly. Maya nodded. She'd been right about the existence of planetary engineering technology, just wrong about its origin. The ship wasn't the first of its kind to visit Earth, but it might be our last chance to accept its help. "The Security Council won't like this," Reeves warned. placing alien technology at strategic points around the globe. It's going to rekindle all the fears about control and weapons potential. Then help me make them understand. Maya turned to face the Colonel directly. The ship's neural interface. It's showing me more than just technical data. I can feel its purpose, its history. This technology has been used to heal thousands of worlds. Some accepted it and went on to join a larger galactic community. Others rejected it out of fear and suspicion. She left unspoken what had happened to those worlds. The ship's presence pressed against her consciousness, sharing images of planets restored to vibrant life and species that had learned to become stewards rather than exploiters of their worlds. But it also shared a warning. The window for action was closing. Earth's systems were approaching tipping points that even this advanced technology couldn't reverse. We need to move quickly, Maya continued. The ship's initial interventions have bought us some time, but without the complete network in place, the changes won't be permanent. Humanity needs to commit fully to this path. The assembled scientists and military personnel absorbed her words in silence. Through the dome's windows, the green lights continued their dance across the sky, spreading the first seeds of planetary healing. But the harder tests still lay ahead. Dr. Chen, Sarah's voice was urgent. The ship is detecting unauthorized aircraft approaching the Antarctic region. Someone's searching for the second dormant vessel. Maya closed her eyes, accessing the ship's long-range sensors through her neural link. Of course, there was another ship. Earth's delicate balance had once been maintained by a network of such vessels, until ancient humans, too primitive to understand their purpose, had driven them into dormancy. "Colonel," she said, opening her eyes, "I need transport to Antarctica. If someone activates that ship without understanding the synchronization protocols, they could disrupt everything we've achieved." Reeves was already on her radio. "I'll have a hypersonic transport ready in 30 minutes. But Maya," she paused, using her first name for the first time, "are you sure you're strong enough? The neural interface is clearly taking a toll." Maya smiled grimly. "The ship chose to wait for me, Colonel. That means I'm strong enough." She turned to her team. "Keep monitoring the atmospheric changes. The next 48 hours will prove whether humanity is ready to take its place among the stars, or if we're destined to remain trapped in our own self-made prison." The ship's energy thrummed through her consciousness, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The real test was just beginning. The price of power. The hypersonic transport thundered over the Southern Ocean, fighting against winds that had grown increasingly erratic since the first ship's activation. Maya sat in the cargo hold, her consciousness split between her physical form and the vast network of environmental changes spreading across the planet. Through her neural link with the Arctic vessel, she could feel the pulse of every engineered organism, every atmospheric processor, every oceanic transformation. "Your vital signs are deteriorating," Sarah said, checking the medical monitors they'd insisted on bringing. The neural interface wasn't designed for such prolonged connection. Maya opened her eyes. Though maintaining her link with the ship, the interface wasn't designed for humans at all. "We're learning together, the ship and I." She didn't mention the increasing difficulty of separating her thoughts from the ship's vast consciousness, or the way her dreams had become filled with memories of other worlds, other species, other transformations. Colonel Reeves approached from the cockpit, her expression grim. "We've got confirmation. A private military force backed by the New Earth Consortium has already reached the Antarctic site. They're using thermal lances to cut through the ice." "They don't understand what they're dealing with," Maya said, accessing the Arctic ship's long-range sensors. Through them, she could see the second vessel, dormant but not dead, its systems already responding to its siblings awakening. These ships are paired. They're meant to work in harmony, creating a balanced planetary network. Trying to force an activation could trigger a catastrophic resonance cascade. The transport shuddered as they hit another patch of turbulence. The atmospheric changes were accelerating faster than predicted, creating weather patterns that even the ship's most sophisticated models struggled to anticipate. Earth's climate system was like a patient in cardiac arrest. The first shock had been delivered, but without precise timing, the second could prove fatal. 5 minutes to drop point, the pilot announced. But there's a massive storm system moving in. We'll have one shot at insertion. Maya stood, steadying herself against the hull. The neural interface pulsed with increasing urgency, sharing images of similar planetary restorations. Some had failed at precisely this point, when the delicate balance between paired ships was disrupted by well-meaning but ignorant interventions. The second ship has to be awakened properly, she explained to her team. These vessels aren't just machines. They're living entities, with consciousness spanning millions of years. They remember every world they've helped heal, and every world they've failed to save. And what about the consciousness of their human partner? Sarah asked quietly. Maya, your neural patterns are showing signs of permanent alteration. If you maintain this level of connection much longer. Maya managed a weak smile. Someone had to be first, Sarah. Someone had to prove humanity was ready for this gift. Through the neural link, she felt the Arctic ship's concern for her welfare, its ancient wisdom counseling caution. But there was no time for caution now. The transport's rear hatch opened, revealing the Antarctic wasteland below. Through howling winds and driving snow, Maya could see the excavation site, a raw wound in the ice where the New Earth Consortium's forces had set up their operation. Colonel Reeves checked her tactical display. Their perimeter defenses are minimal. They committed everything to the excavation. She turned to Maya. We can insert via drop lines. But in these winds, the ship will help, Maya interrupted, her voice overlapping with harmonics from the neural interface. The Arctic vessel extended its influence, creating a pocket of relative calm in the storm. Now, they descended into chaos. The consortium's forces, focused on their drilling operation, didn't notice the insertion team until they were already inside the perimeter. Maya moved with unnatural grace, her movements guided by the ship's combat protocols, ancient knowledge of how to disable without destroying, to protect without harming. They'd reached the excavation shaft just as the drilling team broke through to the second ship's outer hull. Maya could feel the vessel's systems stirring, responding to approaches that were all wrong, dangerous. Step away from the ship, Colonel Reeves commanded, her voice carrying natural authority. This operation is now under United Nations jurisdiction. The consortium's lead scientist, a tall woman with steel-gray hair, turned from the exposed hull. Dr. Chen, we wondered if you'd join us. Her smile was razor-sharp. Come to ensure your monopoly on alien technology. Dr. Rebecca Morrison, Maya said, recognizing her from countless climate change denial conferences. I've come to prevent you from killing us all. The ship's activation sequence requires precise. A tremor ran through the ice, cutting her off. The second vessel's hull began to pulse with angry red light, its patterns clashing with the harmonious green of its Arctic sibling. Maya felt the neural interface scream a warning through her mind. The resonance is building, she gasped. If the ships fall out of sync. Another tremor, stronger this time. Equipment toppled as the ice groaned beneath them. Through her link, Maya could feel the massive energies building between the two vessels, threatening to tear apart the very systems they were meant to heal. Everybody out, Colonel Reeves ordered, but Maya moved deeper into the excavation, toward the exposed hull. The consortium scientists scrambled for the exit as the chamber began to collapse around them. Maya. Sarah's voice was desperate. The neural load will kill you. But Maya had seen what would happen if she didn't act. The resonance cascade would trigger a chain reaction in all the environmental processors they'd seeded across the planet. Instead of healing the Earth, they would push it past the final tipping point. She pressed her hands against the second ship's hull, forcing her consciousness through the neural interface. The ship's alien awareness fought her at first, confused by the conflicting signals it was receiving. Maya pushed harder, using everything she'd learned from its Arctic sibling to establish a connection. We came to heal, she projected into its ancient mind. Remember your purpose. For a moment that felt like eternity, she hung suspended between the consciousness of both vessels, one awake and concerned, the other confused and defensive. Through their linked awareness, she showed them Earth's desperate need, humanity's readiness to change, the future that was possible if they worked together. The second ship's lights shifted from red to green. The resonance stabilized. The tremors stilled, and Maya Chen collapsed to the ice. Blood trickling from her nose, her consciousness scattered across two vast alien minds. As darkness took her, she felt the ship's combined power thrumming through the Earth's wounded systems. They would complete their work now, guided by the template she had helped establish. Humanity would have its chance at redemption, though she might not be present to see it. Her last thought, shared across the neural interface, was a message for her species. Don't waste this gift. Then the alien minds drew her deeper, promising to keep safe the human consciousness that had proven humanity's worth to the stars. Renaissance. 6 months after Maya Chen's sacrifice, Sarah Okonjo stood in the observation dome, watching a phenomenon that had become known as the Aurora of Hope. The sky danced with interweaving patterns of green and blue light, visible now from almost anywhere on Earth, the visual signature of two alien ships working in perfect harmony to heal a wounded planet. The latest atmospheric readings are almost too good to be true, Dr. Kauri said, joining her at the window. Carbon levels have dropped to pre-industrial levels. The ocean acidification is reversing. Even the great desert regions are showing signs of regeneration. Sarah nodded, though her attention was focused on a different set of readings, the neural activity still emanating from both ships. She's still in there, James. Sometimes, when I'm working with the interface, I can feel her presence in the data streams. The interface had evolved since Maya's apparent sacrifice, becoming easier for humans to use without risk of neural override. It was as if she had blazed a trail through the alien consciousness, creating a safe path for others to follow. Now, teams of trained operators worked in shifts, helping to guide the restoration process just as Maya had envisioned. Colonel Reeves, now General Reeves of the Global Environmental Defense Force, entered the dome, accompanied by Dr. Morrison. The former consortium scientist had become one of their strongest allies after witnessing Maya's sacrifice, her brilliant mind now dedicated to understanding and implementing the ship's healing technologies. The Security Council has approved the final phase, Reeves announced. All 24 restoration nodes are in position. We can begin full planetary integration on Maya's protocol. The protocol, Maya's last gift to humanity, was a comprehensive plan for not just environmental restoration, but for the transition to a sustainable civilization. The ships weren't simply healing Earth. They were teaching humanity how to become true stewards of their world. Show me the integration map, Sarah requested. The central holographic display activated, showing the network of restoration nodes spread across the planet. Each node pulsed with the same biomechanical energy as the ships, creating a web of healing that spanned the globe. Dr. Morrison manipulated the display, highlighting the energy flows. The ships are preparing to synchronize the entire network. Once activated, the restoration effect will be self-sustaining. Earth's natural systems will be restored to their optimal state, with humanity as an integrated part of the planetary ecosystem rather than an external force acting upon it. And the ships? Sarah asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. Will they leave once the process is complete? A new presence made itself known in the neural interface, vast, ancient, but now comfortingly familiar. Through it came a thought pattern that Sarah recognized instantly, though it was interwoven with something far more alien. We stay as long as we're needed. Maya's consciousness communicated through the interface. Earth is part of a larger community now. We'll help guide humanity toward its place among the stars. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she received the clearest communication from her mentor since the Antarctic incident. Maya's consciousness had indeed survived, transformed through her merger with the ship's vast awareness. She was no longer purely human, but she hadn't been lost. The network is ready, Dr. Morrison announced, her eyes on the displays. Synchronization can begin on your command, General. Reeve stood straighter, the weight of the moment visible in her bearing. Dr. Okonjo, would you do the honors? She would want it to be you. Sarah stepped forward, placing her hands on the interface panel. Around the world, thousands of scientists, engineers, and environmental specialists stood ready at similar panels, preparing to witness the culmination of humanity's greatest cooperative achievement. Through the neural interface, Sarah felt the presence of both ships, and within them, the expanded consciousness that had once been Maya Chen. Together, they would complete the work she had started, not just saving Earth, but transforming humanity's relationship with their world. Begin synchronization, Sarah commanded, her voice steady despite the emotion tightening her throat. The aurora of hope flared brilliantly across the sky as the restoration network activated. From space, observers on the International Moon Base watched in awe as waves of bioluminescent energy spread across Earth's surface. Deserts bloomed, oceans cleared, and the atmosphere itself seemed to shimmer with renewed vitality. In that moment, as humanity witnessed their planet's rebirth, Maya's consciousness reached out one final time through the interface, touching the minds of all those connected to the network. Her message was simple but profound. This is not an ending, but a beginning. You've proven yourselves worthy of this gift. Now show the universe what humanity can become. The ship's energy pulsed in harmony with the restored rhythms of Earth's natural systems. Humanity had been given a second chance, and with it, an invitation to join something greater than themselves. The true renaissance was just beginning. Above them, the aurora of hope continued its eternal dance, a reminder of the day humanity chose to heal rather than destroy, to grow rather than consume, to reach for the stars not as conquerors, but as guardians of life itself. The future, at last, looked bright.